You can always tell when a seasoned K9 senses something's wrong. It's in the eyes, that unflinching gaze that slices through silence like a blade. And that frigid night in Alder Creek, as Rex fixated on the rear of the garbage truck, Officer Eli Mercer felt a ripple of dread crawl up his spine. What should have been a routine end-of-shift walk, 10 minutes of icy pavement under flickering lampposts before heading home to heat up some leftover stew, suddenly veered into the unknown. But Rex had other plans. And thank heavens for that. 10 feet from the roaring compactor, on the edge of a quiet cul-de-sac, a life teetered on the brink, unheard, unseen, nearly erased, unless someone was listening. "Let's go, pal," Eli murmured, tugging gently on the leash. But Rex didn't budge. The retired military K9 stood frozen at the curb, ears locked forward, shoulders tense like coiled steel. Then he barked, not a soft woof, not a nostalgic yap from a retired dog reminiscing about the good old days. This was primal, chest-rattling, a staccato of urgency. Again and again, the garbage truck operator, a burly man in an orange vest, descended from the cab, clearly annoyed. "Everything all right there?" "Usually is," Eli said, raising a hand. Must have caught a scent. But Eli knew better. He hadn't seen that posture since Kandahar. That look, that bark, it meant danger. And this wasn't the war front. This was Maple Hill, Alder Creek. Safe, quiet, harmless. So why did it suddenly feel like a nightmare was seconds away? The truck inched forward. Hydraulic arms seized a large black bin. Rex lunged. "Whoa, easy." Eli stepped in front of him, trying to calm the dog. "What is it, boy? What's in there?" The bin started to rise. Rex's barking reached a fever pitch. Desperate, fierce. "Stop the lift," Eli barked, waving both arms. The driver hit the emergency brake hard. "What's the matter?" Rex had already bolted toward the rear tire, growling into the shadows. Heart racing, Eli pulled his flashlight and climbed onto the truck's rear step. The bin swayed in the lift's arms. Something shifted inside. Something light. Something alive. He peered in and froze. There, muffled by layers of towels and stained paper, was a sound. Not mechanical. Not metal. A human sound. A cry. A baby's cry. "Lower it," Eli shouted. Together, they hauled the bin down and flung the lid open. A blast of cold air hit them, followed by the pungent scent of damp fabric and blood. Eli tore through the contents. Newspaper, a towel, another, and then, curled into a trembling bundle, lay a newborn, lips pale blue, eyes clenched shut, body shivering. He didn't think. He acted. "Call EMS," he yelled at the driver. "Newborn. Hypothermic. Maybe injured." He yanked off his jacket and wrapped the child tight. Rex stood by, silent now, eyes on the infant, guarding. "You did good, boy," Eli whispered. "Real good." The ambulance came barreling down Maple Hill Road just 5 minutes later, but to Eli Mercer, those 5 minutes had felt like a lifetime. He sat on the curb, his back against the frosted hydrant, the baby swaddled against his chest, whispering softly to keep him awake. "Hey there. You're okay now. You're going to be okay." The paramedics moved fast. Blankets, oxygen, a neonatal 4. The sanitation driver stood nearby, pale and shaking. I didn't hear anything," he muttered. "I swear, I didn't see a thing." Eli just nodded. He didn't trust his voice yet. Once the ambulance pulled away, Eli stuck around to help the local units canvass the area. It was a sleepy corner of Alder Creek, quiet porches, unlocked doors, wind chimes tinkling in the breeze. Not the kind of place where you find a baby in a trash bin. Rex didn't leave Eli's side. He never did. The next morning, headlines across local news called the dog a hero. But Eli already knew. He looked down at Rex, his once black muzzle now fading with streaks of gray. "You never stopped being a soldier, did you?" Rex didn't wag, didn't move. He simply stood watch. As always, that night, Eli couldn't sleep. After the baby was rushed to Fairview Medical Center, after statements were filed and flashlights clicked off, after the cruiser doors shut with Rex climbing into the back like he used to in his prime, Eli found himself sitting at his kitchen table, staring into nothing. Outside, December wrapped its frozen teeth around Alder Creek. Even the furnace groaned. On the floor, Rex let out a deep exhale and laid his head on Eli's boot. "You always know, don't you?" He didn't need a response. He'd seen it before, in war zones, burned barns, alleyways. Rex didn't bark without a reason, but this was different. 10 seconds more, and that truck would have crushed everything inside, and no one would have known, except Rex. The following morning, Eli couldn't shake the unease. He clipped Rex's leash and returned to the site. The garbage truck was gone now, the sidewalk clear. The world, it seemed, had moved on. But Eli hadn't. "Let's walk it again," he murmured. Rex needed no prompting. They circled the block. Once, twice. That's when Rex stopped again. In front of a worn white house with a sagging chain-link fence and a dented mailbox reading, Calloway. Eli knew the name. Harold Calloway, retired machinist, lived alone, nothing on record. The kind of guy neighbors described as quiet but kind. Rex paced along the curb, nose twitching. Then he sat, silent, watchful. Eli scanned the porch. Something on the steps caught his eye. A corner of a baby wipe packet, half tucked under a loose board. Coincidence? Then, behind the bushes, something else, a plastic grocery bag. Inside, stained rags, a cracked pacifier, an empty formula bottle, and a note. The ink had run, but 3 words stood clear. "I'm sorry. Please." Eli's grip tightened around the bag. "You were right again," he muttered to Rex. At the station, the items went to forensics. The note was scanned and enhanced. The lead detective, Jessa Klein, leaned in the doorway of Eli's office. "You think the baby came from that house?" Eli nodded. "Someone there knows something, mother or not." Jessa tapped her pen against the pad. "This could be more than abandonment. Could be coercion or abuse." Eli didn't answer. He looked out the window. Rex lay in the squad car's shadow, still, resting. "We were seconds away from losing that kid," Eli finally said. "I know," Jessa whispered. That afternoon, they pulled surveillance from a neighbor's door cam. At 3:08 a.m., a figure appeared, emerging from the alley near the Calloway residence. Hoodie drawn tight, shoulders hunched, carrying a bulky bin. She, and it was a she, walked fast. Not running, but not calm either. Young, small, 17 at most, probably younger. Jessa studied the screen. Not a criminal, just scared. They watched the video again. She wasn't discarding, Eli said. She was hiding, praying someone would hear. That evening, with a search warrant in hand, Eli returned to the Calloway home. The house was empty, but behind the shed, buried beneath cracked crates, they found more clues. Infant clothes, a used baby blanket with embroidered stars, a page from a spiral notebook. "He said he'd hurt the baby if I didn't listen, if I told anyone." Eli's stomach turned. This wasn't carelessness. This was fear. He returned to the station late that night. Rex curled up on a blanket beside the desk. "She didn't abandon him," Eli said softly. "She was protecting him. From someone." Rex twitched once in his sleep, then settled again. Outside, snow began to fall in slow curtains. They weren't done yet. The next 48 hours passed like fog. On the surface, nothing moved. But underneath, tension, coiled and waiting. At St. Agnes Children's Hospital, the baby, now temporarily identified as Baby C, lay under warm blankets in a neonatal ward. Stable, alive, safe. He was recovering from severe hypothermia, but miraculously, there were no injuries. No substances in his system, just cold, just alone. Back at the station, Eli watched the surveillance footage for the 3rd time. 3:08 a.m. A lone figure, hoodie up, carrying the bin. She placed it beside the trash pile and walked away, not like someone guilty, but like someone broken. For a split second, the streetlight caught her profile. Soft cheek, narrow jaw. A teenager, not a criminal. A kid in pain. Detective Klein entered, holding a thin case file. "We traced the blanket from the bin. It came from a clinic batch distributed to community centers in Millen and Grafton." Eli nodded. "So she's local, probably under the radar. Maybe even in the system," Jessa added. Eli stood. "We need to go back." The second time they approached the Calloway residence, the air felt different. Still, heavy. Rex tugged slightly at the leash as they passed the side gate. Eli unlatched it, flashlight in hand. The backyard was still. Nothing but snow and silence. Until I didn't want to hurt him. The voice was soft, shaky, human. Eli froze. Slowly he turned. Behind a green bin sat a girl. Hoodie pulled low, jeans stained, arms clutched around herself like armor, eyes red from crying. Rex didn't bark. He simply sat, watching. Eli knelt slowly. "It's okay. I'm not here to arrest you." She didn't answer. "You left the baby, didn't you?" She nodded, barely. "I wanted him to live," she whispered. "He is," Eli said gently. "He's warm. He's okay." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't know what else to do," he said. "He said if I told, he'd make me disappear." Eli's pulse surged. "Who said that?" She shook her head. "Doesn't matter. He's gone now." "It does matter," Eli said. "Because you didn't abandon him. You protected him." She looked up at Rex, eyes wide. He saved him?" Eli nodded. Rex heard what no one else did. A long silence followed. Then, barely audible, "Can I see him just once?" They brought her in. Her name was Mara Lorne, 15 years old, in foster care, just 3 blocks from where she left the baby. Her foster father, one Ray McKinnon, was under immediate investigation. No priors, no recent reports. But the truth unraveled fast. He'd told her no one would help her. Said if she told anyone about the pregnancy, she'd be locked up. That no one wanted a girl like her with a baby. He told her shame was her only option. So she hid it, delivered in a borrowed clinic, wrapped the baby in an old blanket, and prayed that someone, anyone, might hear the cry. 2 days later, in the pediatric ward at St. Agnes, Mara stood by her son's crib. The boy, freshly bathed, wrapped in yellow fleece, looked stronger, healthier. He twitched in his sleep, a tiny hand gripping the air. "I named him Kalen," Mara whispered, "after the nurse who helped me during the delivery." Eli smiled. "It's a strong name. I still can't keep him, can I?" Eli didn't lie. "We don't know yet. But what you did, it matters." She looked at Rex, who lay curled beside Eli's feet. "He cared," she said, "when no one else did." Eli nodded. "Yeah. He's got a way of knowing who needs saving." That night, snow clung to the cruiser windows as they drove home. Eli sat in silence, processing. So much had happened. A baby saved. A girl pulled from a silence she never asked for. And AK-9 who, even in retirement, never stopped listening. Heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear fur. The air outside was colder than ever, brittle with frost, and something more, tension. At the station, a CPS agent named Natalie Brecht walked beside Eli down the corridor. 15. No prenatal care. Fostered under a man with a sealed caution report. "She's one of too many," Natalie muttered. "She needs protection," Eli said. "Not judgment." "I agree," Natalie replied, flipping open her folder. "I pulled her case personally. Ray McKinnon has 3 other children from previous placements, all reassigned. There were red flags, but nothing stuck. Until now. You think he'll come looking for her?" Natalie gave a slow nod. "People like him always do." Back at the hospital, security flagged a visitor just after noon. A man, mid-50s, heavy coat, refused to give his name. Didn't yell. Didn't force anything. But there was a coldness to him. A calculation. Eli and Jessa were in the cruiser within 7 minutes. Rex stood tall in the back seat, his ears twitching at every streetlight flash. They didn't catch the man, but they caught the footage. Frame by frame. The man turned just enough for the camera to capture his face. Eli froze. Ray McKinnon. The same man Mara had run from. The one who'd convinced her the world didn't care. "He knows," Jessa said quietly. She talked. "He's panicking." That evening, CPS relocated Mara and Kalen to a secure home on the outskirts of Alder Creek under temporary protective custody. Eli watched the cruiser pull away through the snow. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did Rex, who lay by the door all night, eyes fixed on the street. The next day, Eli sat with Mara at the safe house. She looked exhausted, eyes ringed, hands twitching slightly as she rocked Kalen in her arms. "He told me if I ever said anything," she whispered, "he'd take the baby. Said Kalen wasn't mine to keep. Said I didn't deserve him." Her voice cracked. At night, I'd hear him outside my bedroom door, listening. Eli's gut turned to stone. Back at the station, He flagged McKinnon's name on every database. No phone activity, no credit trail, no sightings. Ghosted, Jessa said, scanning the traffic cams. He's watching. Waiting. Yeah, Eli murmured, staring at Rex. I feel it too. That evening, they walked Maple Hill Road again. The same street where Rex had refused to move, had barked into the cold silence. Why here? Eli asked aloud, stopping at the exact spot. Rex stared up at him. That gaze, full of silent knowing. Maybe it wasn't what Rex had heard or seen that night. Maybe it was what he felt. Fear. Desperation. A cry no human ear could hear, but which cut straight into him. Inside the station, a new CPS update awaited Eli in a slim manila folder. Mara's status was under review. Subject may be eligible for kinship placement with a responsible adult pending full background check. Eli read the line twice. He looked up at the photo pinned to his fridge. Himself and Rex, 5 years younger, soldier and sentinel, and now maybe something else. Then came the call. A gas station on Route 12. Man matching McKinnon's description. Bought a burner phone and a bottle of cheap whiskey. 2:03 a.m. Surveillance confirmed it. Same coat, same gait, same eyes, Jessa said. Dead inside. He's circling, Eli said, waiting for a slip. And Eli had no intention of slipping. That night, he pulled a quiet favor from the Department of Child Services. I'm not saying I'm ready to be a guardian, he told the director. But if there's no one else, I'm not letting her go back to that. The director paused. You understand what that means? I've made bigger decisions with less time. Back at the shelter, Mara was drawing on a sketchpad as Kaylin slept nearby. Pencil. Light strokes. You always draw in pencil? Eli asked, sitting beside her. She gave a small smile. Mistakes are easier to fix. He nodded, watching her for a moment. You're doing good with him, he said. He knows I'm trying, she said quietly. Eli took a breath. Look, if it comes down to it, and no one else steps up, I will. You and Kaylin won't be alone. She blinked. You'd really do that? Eli nodded. I don't make promises I can't keep. No one's ever said that to me before. At 1:43 a.m., Eli's phone buzzed. Patrol had spotted a man loitering near the alley behind the shelter. No incident, just standing, watching. Eli didn't hesitate. Let's go, boy. Rex was already at the door. Jessa met them at the gate. Footprints behind the dumpster. Surveillance triggered at 1:41. They watched the short clip. McKinnon, standing across the street, eyes locked on the shelter window. A lit cigarette in his hand. Then gone. That night, they doubled the patrols. One cruiser at each end of the block. Shelter guards stationed at every exit. Eli stayed the night in his cruiser. Rex curled in the back seat, alert. They weren't waiting for evil. They were guarding something good. And no one was getting through. At 3:17 a.m., the street was still. No wind. No sound. Just breath in the cold. Then, movement. A shadow. Darting at the far end of the block. Eli's eyes locked in. East End. Suspect in view. Rex was already on his feet, body coiled like a spring. They moved in silence. Eli and his partner. Down the alley, hugging the frost-coated walls. Every step pressing snow into quiet crunches. The figure turned a corner. Eli followed. And there, under the flickering light of a loading dock, stood Ray McKinnon. Cornered. Hands where I can see them. Eli shouted, weapon drawn. McKinnon froze. Then he laughed. Cold. Bitter. Like glass breaking in the dark. You're protecting a liar, he hissed. You think she's some kind of hero? I don't think, Eli said flatly. I saw the bruises. I read her statement. You put a child in danger. She made me out to be the monster. Rex stood in front of Eli now, growling low, deep. McKinnon's eyes dropped to the dog. That might cost me everything. No, Eli said. You did that all on your own. The cuffs clicked shut loud enough to echo off the alley walls. They brought him in. Back at the safe house, Mara slept soundly for the first time in days. Kaylin stirred in his crib just before sunrise, to clean light, quiet arms, and a world without fear. At the station, Eli sat in his cruiser, the sky slowly paling. Beside him, Rex finally slept, chest rising and falling with peace earned through vigilance. The storm had passed. For now. A week later, inside the Franklin County Courthouse, silence settled over the halls like a breath held too long. Mara sat on the long wooden bench beside Eli, Kaylin asleep in his carrier, cheeks rosy and full of color. Ready? Eli asked quietly. Mara nodded. Her voice still trembled sometimes, but not from fear anymore, from weight, from the size of what she'd carried. Ray McKinnon pled not guilty, but the bruises, the note, the footage, the testimony, the truth, it was all there. His manipulation, his threats, the way he'd taught a girl to believe she was invisible. But Mara was visible now. She had a name, a voice, a son. The judge granted Mara temporary supervised guardianship of Kaylin under protective placement, with mandatory counseling and full support. She had just turned 16, still technically a child, but in every way that mattered, she was a mother. After the hearing, Natalie Brecht gave her a hug outside the courtroom. You did it. Mara shook her head. We did. She glanced at Eli, at Rex, sitting like a statue in the sunlight. They walked outside together, the air sharp but clean. Still sure about this next step? Eli asked as she buckled Kaylin into the cruiser. I know it's not forever, she said, but I want to try. Eli smiled. Then let's take the next step. The house was small, a little dusty, but it had peace. It had space. And it had Rex. CPS had approved Mara and Kaylin's temporary placement with Eli, thanks to the emergency foster petition he'd filed days earlier. Eli didn't know what the future held, but for now, this was home. In the following weeks, they found rhythm. Kaylin had a crib in the spare room. Mara applied for online GED classes. Rex rarely left the baby's side, curling beneath the crib at night like a quiet protector. Mara started drawing again. Big, bold sketches of motion, eagles in flight, wolves in moonlight. One morning, she taped a sketch to the wall near the door. Rex, beneath a full moon, baby Kaylin nestled against his flank. Below it, one word, guardian. Eli framed it that afternoon. Then came the town council ceremony. They wanted to honor first responders, EMTs, officers, firefighters, and Rex. Eli didn't want to go. He hated speeches. But Mara insisted. You can't bark your way out of this one, she told Rex, scratching his chin. Under the old brick clock tower, the mayor told the story of a baby, a cry, a dog who refused to walk away. The crowd clapped. Some cried. Eli knelt beside his old partner. He never stopped being a soldier, he said. He just waited for the next person to need him. That night, the porch was warm with soft light. Mara held Kaylin in her arms. Eli sat nearby. Rex lay across his boots. Do you think people can really change? Mara asked. I think people don't always get to choose what happens to them, Eli said. But they do get to choose what happens next. She looked down at Kaylin. I want him to know he was wanted, that he wasn't trash. Eli's voice dropped. He'll know. Because you stayed. Because you fought. Because a dog didn't let the world ignore his cry. She smiled. Rex snored softly. And everything was still, in the best way. In the weeks that followed, CPS continued to work toward a permanent solution. They didn't know how long Mara and Kaylin would stay with Eli, but the house felt full now, like it had been waiting for something. One evening, Eli stood at the sink, rinsing dishes. From the living room, laughter echoed. Mara reading to Kaylin, voice soft and steady. Rex sat at his feet, tail wagging once. You knew, didn't you? Eli said. Rex blinked. Yeah, he'd known. Some heroes don't wear uniforms. They wear fur. They speak not in words, but in action. They don't save the world with noise, but with a single bark at just the right moment. If this story moved you, if Rex's courage and Mara's quiet strength gave you hope, hit that like button. Drop a comment to let us know which moment hit you hardest. And don't forget to subscribe Wildkin Pawas Stories for more real stories of animal instinct, human resilience, and second chances. Every bark, every heartbeat, every life saved, it matters.